Okay, good morning, afternoon, or evening. Delete as necessary. Today we are going to be looking at making an estimate or estimating products for multiplication. And our objective is to provide experiences with making and using magnitude estimates for products of multi-digit numbers, including decimals. Okay. So the first thing that you need to be aware of, this is very, very important, so obviously this is something that we need to take notes on, is a magnitude estimate. So what is a magnitude estimate? A rough estimate that determines the place value of an answer. Magnitude estimates allow you to know if your solution to a problem is reasonable. And that right there is why we make magnitude estimates. That whole is your solution reasonable. Okay, it's a way to check your work and a way to give you an idea of where you need to be after you get your work done. Okay, so the basic question that magnitude estimates help us answer is our solution, or is the solution to the problem, in the tens place, hundreds, thousands, tenths, or thousandths? Okay, so for example, is the result of 14 times 7? Is it in the tens? Is it in the hundreds? Is it in the thousands? Well, I mean, we can ask ourselves what we already know, right? We already know 10 times 10 equals 100, right? Okay. Well, 14 is less than 10 and 17 is less than 10. So we know 14 times 17 is going to be bigger than 100. So let's go with something else that we know. Okay. 20 times 20 equals, well, 2 times 2 is 4. I have 2 zeros to go with it. So 20 times 20 is 400. Well, 20 is bigger than 14 and 17 is bigger than, 20 is bigger than 14 and 20 is also bigger than 17. So 14 times 17 has to be less than 400. So we know that the answer for 14 times 17 has to be somewhere in the hundreds place. Okay, so our next skill that comes out of this whole situation is that we have to figure out a way to make an estimate. And the best way to do that is with rounding. So we have a couple of rules for rounding, but rounding factors to the nearest multiple of 10 is helpful in making magnitude estimates. So the nearest factors of 10. Here's the general rule, okay? If the number you are rounding is followed by a 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9, round the number up. So for example, 38 is rounded to the nearest 10. Rounded to the nearest 10 is 40. If the number you are rounding is followed by a 0, 1, 2, 3, or 4, round the number down. So for example, 33 rounded to the nearest 10 is 30. So what about 76? Do we round up or do we round down? Well, according to the first part, if it ends in a 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9, we would go up. So 76 becomes 80. Okay. Now, what about 220? Okay. 220, well, if we're going to round it, then it's already at a 10. But if we were going to round it to another multiple of 10, or maybe a power of 10, would we round up or we would round down? And when you look at the 2 in the tens place, that says, up here it says to round down to multiple or power of 10. We could round 220 down to 200. Okay, that would be easier to multiply than 220. Then what about 4,892? What would we round that to? Well, if we rounded to the nearest 10, we're talking about 4,890. Well, that's still not an easy number that I want to multiply with. Okay. Could I round to the nearest 100? Well, if it was the 8, or looking at the 9 here, I would round up to 4,900. But that's still not something that's easy to multiply. So let's round to the nearest power of 10. Well, that would be in the thousands place. And we look at the 8, and we would round up to 5,000. Okay. Okay, so we have a couple of rules for making a magnitude estimate. Rule number 1. Round both factors to the nearest multiple of a power of 10. And when you see the examples, you'll see what I mean by that. And then number 2, find the product of the rounded numbers. And usually what you want to do is find something that you can use and do mental math with, especially for an estimate. Okay, so now we have something we call friendly numbers. So these are numbers that are close to the numbers being multiplied and are easy to work with. So when you're making a magnitude estimate, use what we call friendly numbers. Use friendly numbers to help you use mental math to make a magnitude estimates. Okay, so this is all something that I want you to think about while you're making estimates. Okay, so we have 420 times 43,892. Well, I am not doing that mentally. No matter how many times you ask, it won't work. Okay, so what do I need to do? Let's make a magnitude estimate and get an idea of what our answer should be. So if we were going to round 420 to a friendly number that's easy to multiply, the number that's easiest to multiply would be in the, I didn't get my pen, would be in the hundreds place. So I have 420 becomes 400. I'm multiplying by, well, 43,892. I could go to the hundreds place. If I rounded to the hundreds place, I'd have 43,900. Okay, still not mental math, not friendly enough, right? So I could round to the thousandths place. I have 44,000. Okay, well, 44,000 times 400, not bad, but is there a better choice? Why, indeed there is, Mr. Shanto. There's a much better choice. Let's round to the 10,000s place. So we look at the thousands place, which has a 3 in the thousands place. So that means we round down. So we round 43,892 down to 40, and I apologize for that line there. 40,000. I should have erased it before I got started. I'm erasing my own number. Oh, I won't erase. Let's clean this up a little bit. Come on, let's erase it. Oh, okay, let's start from scratch. 400 times... Okay, so what if we have 6,748 times 3,480? Again, we're looking for friendly numbers. So I'm not going to round to the tens or hundreds place. I'm going to round to the thousands place. So let's look at the 7. 7 is closer to, so since 7 is 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9, you round up. We're going to round to 7,000 times 3,480. Well, I'm looking at the hundreds place, so I'm going to round down to 3,000. So now all I have to worry about multiplying is 7 times 3. Okay, that's it. Those are my friendly, happy numbers. Okay, last example. 88,889 times 4,965. I want, again, as friendly numbers I can find. So let's round to the 10,000s place. So I look at the thousands place and see what number that's in. Well, that's an 8. So I round up to, so I round the 8 in the 10,000s place up to 9. And I have 90,000 times, again, I have 4,965. Well, let's round it to a nice, happy, round number. That's going to be in the thousands place. So I would round 4,965 to 5,000. And that would give me 9 times 5. Okay, what's the big idea? Magnitude estimates help you find a reasonable answer to a problem. Magnitude estimates determine the place value of your answer. Use the rounding rules to find the friendly numbers to multiply, and the multiple powers of 10 are let's get rid of that word. Mr. Shanto and his editing. Multiple powers of 10 are much easier to multiply mentally. Okay? So those are the big takeaways that I want you to think about. Okay? So tonight, instead of doing a quiz, I want you to actually work on journal page 47 and make some magnitude estimates. And I'll see you in class tomorrow.